Okay, we are recording. Hello, everyone. I have with me today Nina Starsong and
Hi.
the famous Leniad, Daniel Catsmagic. We, back in the summer, the three of us did a chat together, a round table with just the three of us. And mostly that format was Daniel asking questions to myself and Nina. But towards the end, the three of us gave our insights and opinions on the current situation. And we looked forward to we are going to be speaking in code. I forgot to mention that to you, Nina. So for the situation in America, that's the competition. And we have to do this so that these words don't get picked up. So we have to be careful. So we looked forward to look at the American competition situation and the participants, the competitors within the competition. And we each gave our views on what we saw, which were different perspectives of that situation. And each one of us, actually, our perspectives were all fit what has occurred. And so really what we wanted to do today is an update as to where we are now, because I think we recorded that chat back in August. So we're now middle of November, but rather than Catsmagic asking us questions, it's going to be the three of us sort of sharing our insights, just like it was towards the end of that video. So welcome, Daniel. Welcome, Nina. So I think what I would say, as we were saying before we started recording, it seems to me when I look at the collective consciousness of humanity and where they are in what information they want, it's very difficult for people to find current, accurate information, because we know that media is controlled, if you will, and there are very few places within mainstream media where you can find accurate truth. And a lot of the alternative media and alternative truth deliverers, if you will, have had to work with and navigate through restriction. I know you yourself, Nina, have had some restriction issues. And obviously, as you'll hear, you can let everyone know where they can find you now, as I have had people ask me where you are and where they can find you. So we're trying to do the best we can in bringing what I feel the collective consciousness of humanity in those various states of awareness want right now. And I feel the current situation, what's happening with the American competition, obviously each of us in our own countries or states have smaller government issues going on. And I can speak a little bit about what's happening in the UK, because obviously that's where I live. So I'm tuned in energetically on the UK and on the US, obviously, and perhaps in a lesser sense to the other places. I also feel that individuals want to know about, obviously, the situation where you have to go to your home and stay in your home, that situation globally or in regional places, and the pathogen situation that is also on people's minds, what's happening with that. So we've got these three narratives, I think, going on: the American competition, the pathogen, and the going to your home situation. And then, of course, the spiritual galactic ascension side of this. And as you said, Nina, before we switched on and started recording, tools for people to navigate through. Because, as I was saying to you, I feel that the majority of the distress, especially within light workers and way showers, truthers, much of this is psychological, because nothing's actually physically happened to many people. I'm not saying it hasn't happened to some, because it absolutely has. But there are other groups of individuals where nothing has physically happened to them, but things are happening to people they know, to their loved ones, to stories they hear about online. And so you're bombarded with what's happening to your fellow human, even if it isn't happening to you. And that's what makes us united. As you were saying, Nina, you're quite lucky where you are. You're not really affected too much with the going to the home situation or the pathogen situation, but you're very connected to others because you were asking us how things were over here in the UK. So where should we start? Should we start with the going to your home and pathogen, or should we start with the American competition? Where would you like to start with? You choose, Nina.
Let's start with the American competition, because it seems that the pathogen bloomed after the competition, which was quite predictable.
Absolutely. Okay. So, going back to what we were saying before, the three of us were seeing something different, a competition that was very different to how the competitions had been before. Some kind of delay, some kind of infiltration. We were seeing these things, but I was seeing this Mr. T being the winner and winning most probably with a landslide. Daniel was seeing that the potential of Mr. B winning. He wasn't saying that would happen, but he was saying that we shouldn't get hung up on Mr. T winning, so that we're not in resistance to Mr. B winning. So that was his very valid insight. And you were kind of saying the same things, both myself and Daniel. So we were seeing these things, and everything that's occurred is kind of played out. Now, I personally still see the same thing as in Mr. T being the winner of the competition. What I am seeing is that he won the competition because I was shown the pieces of paper that you would put in to create your, to decide who you want to win the competition. I was shown these pieces of paper and they were predominantly all red. I could not believe it. I did see them flip to blue. So then I realized, it was a couple of days, or it was actually the night before the competition took place, I realized that there was going to be some cheating going on a grand scale. And then I was quite distressed at that and shocked, because although I'd seen something different happen, I didn't realize it was cheating to that level. And then I realized that that's what happened. And I tried to turn these pieces of paper back to red again once I saw them flip to blue, and I couldn't do it on my own. And I said to the 9, what shall we do? And the 9 said, the Starseeds, the Truthers, the Patriots, they turn the pieces of red again. And of course, now we have all these people all over the United States coming forward to tell their story of what they saw regarding potential cheating. So what I see is Mr. T won with a landslide. I would say, if I had to actually hazard a guess as to how many states this would be, in an actual organic system without any cheating, it's looking to me like 49. There's 50 states, isn't there, in the US? Yeah. It's looking to me like 49 states are red, possibly even 50, but there was one that might actually have organically been blue. I don't know which one. I honestly don't know. No, I can't pinpoint the names of all the states, but it's 49 states that look red organically, possibly even 50. So let's say 49. But of course, that's not what was portrayed by the media. So we have all of this stuff going on. Do I see this all working out? Yes, I do. But there's mess, and there's a battle, and then there's the blue people coming in and saying that Mr. T is trying to take it from them. And then there's this huge battle for information, because it's the media that is propagating this story. And people are falling for it. We were out recently with family. We have a family member who supports Mr. T. I mean, we talk about it in the UK, believe it or not, the American competition is huge news over here. You know, it's not a case where in the past it's been, well, why are you discussing American competitions? What's it got to do with us in the UK? It's not really like that anymore. Most people are very invested in the American competition, and they may intrinsically know how much it affects us as well across the world. but we had a family member who supports Mr. T, who said had he, you know, if he lived in America, if he was an American citizen, he would have chosen Mr. T as the winner for the competition in his piece of paper. However, he's clearly been listening to the mainstream, because he said it's sad to see that he's a sore loser. And I try really hard not to react, because I try to stay as neutral as possible, but I surprised myself because it's a family member, and this family member is close to me. I reacted instantly. I said, a sore loser, excuse me. And I was straight in there with what I knew. And, and towards the end of my barrage of information, this family member said, okay, I hope you're right. It's just, that's not what we're seeing, is it? And I said, no, it's not what we're seeing. So Nina, what do you think? What do you think about the American competition? What's your take on it all?
Well, similarly, when this was all going on, just from the beginning, just as it was, whenever I would speak to Creator, I would always get the same message, which was, it's my will, because Christ consciousness is awakening on the planet. The ascension is happening. This is my will. This is the timeline I am choosing. And my will be done. And so, because love is the most powerful force in the entire multiverse, and that is the force and the power of our prime creator that we're all connected to. And so that has not changed in election, competition night, excuse me, I apologize.
That's okay.
Competition night, I of course did stay up with everyone else.
Okay, so we're losing you a little bit, Nina.
What had occurred.
We lost you a little bit there. Could you repeat what you said there, Nina?
Okay. Yes, the night of the competition, I stayed up until 3 a.m. or whatever it was with everyone else, even though I knew there was not going to be a final decision. And I was not surprised the next day to find out what had occurred. And so, of course, I just went into my space and connected, and immediately the information was, no, it is still my will, but you have to trust how I do this, trust the timing, trust how this plays out. But what I heard was, this was a slide, 90%, which would exactly align with what you heard, Magenta, meaning 95% out of 100%, 49 out of 50. It was like pretty, this has been a landslide, and everyone's going to fight a slide, but it has to happen so that the certain competitors and the way they play certain games are being put right into the spotlight. And that's what needs to happen for a whole lot of people to start waking up. You can't prove that to people. We all know, because we've all been called crazy conspiracy theorists. And so it's an extremely sensitive process that mentally has to occur, because people that have believed that all of these things are very real, someone like me, I always a long time set up. This was the first election that got my attention, where I went, something else is happening. I knew until now that it had been a setup. So a lot of people don't realize that. And now with the information that's coming out, it's starting to show, oh no, this has happened in every single election and globally. So it has to occur. Competition. I apologize again. I will do my best with that. So it has to occur for the entire globe to awaken. What do I see coming? Just exactly that. I see the truth coming out. I see that Mr. T is already wearing the crown, and that he'll continue to wear the crown. I see that he is so touched by incredible forces of grace. I mean, it's been so interesting, because I actually did tune into the Mr. B's competition celebration when he decided to perform like he had received the king's crown. I was guided to do that, and it was so dark that I just wondered how many people are watching this that are picking up on the same vibration. And what I really saw was what that really was a psychological attack on the masses. And so the thing that is the most, I guess, the most important to me that I've been hearing, that I've been tuning into and becoming aware of is, as the light is increasing, as the Christ consciousness is increasing, as we're getting closer to December 21st, as we're going towards that gateway, the attacks psychologically are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And so it's so important that people have a practice to come back to, because it can easily cause them to just lose their center. And the attempts of putting people in lockdowns during the holiday season, separating families, it's so obvious what they're trying to do. So I see this as more of I see this as almost more, not that the competition isn't important, but I see this as more of the warfare than the actual competition. Because the competitors all know what's going on. Mr. T fully knows what's going on. He has a plan. He's not worried about it. He's not concerned. What I've been most concerned about is how this is psychologically affecting everybody. And that's what I've been really tuning into a lot is, okay, we need to raise our own tools, our own personal tools of prayer, meditation, connection. If you can't trust what's outside of you, you have to be able to trust what's inside of you. But that's what this is all about right now.
I know what you mean about staying up late watching the competition. We did as well. Obviously, we're in the UK, so it's different time zones. But what I didn't really understand the numbers, and I didn't really understand what was happening, because I've never watched an American competition before, and I don't really watch the UK competitions either. In fact, the last time I stayed up all night to watch a UK competitions back in the early mid 80s, early 90s, when Margaret Thatcher was coming into power. So I haven't really watched any competition since then. So we stayed up late for this one. Now, because I didn't understand the numbers, I was tuning in on the energy, because something started to not feel right. And what I saw was the first half was organic, flowing and real and truthful and all genuine. And then suddenly there was like a break. And it was when they stopped, it was like there was this break. And that's when I thought, something's happening, something is changing. And then when the new count came in, that was all robotic, artificial, and of the negative. So I although I didn't understand the numbers, I didn't really get the number or what it means per state, because I don't really understand the system in that way. I could see the energy, and I knew when everything resumed after the break, I thought, oh dear, this is not the same energy as before. So I knew what they had done. So, but yeah, thanks for that, Nina. So Daniel, what about you? What's your take on the whole thing? And also looking at what you were saying last time we spoke about not being in resistance to something happening that is not Mr. T winning. How do you feel about that now as well?
Well, first of all, as you were both speaking, it did actually occur to me that Mr. T, the actual Mr. T, would actually be an amazing candidate, like the guy from the A-Team. I can't actually get out of my head now every time you say Mr. T. I'm just thinking of him there with all his tons of jewelry and
he loves the TV characters.
You know, Mr. T would have been on this, and he would not take any nonsense. And he probably would have seen this coming a mile off.
Can we have a serious chat with him?
Yes.
Seriously though. Last time we were just laughing the whole time. Sorry, go on, Daniel, speak.
Okay, I am being serious.
I know you are.
I mean, man, come on, you got to mix it up with a little bit of um, so I think regarding everything that's come to pass, as we were discussing those few months back, I think everything that could happen this year has happened and is happening, and it's ongoing. And I wasn't specifically saying about being in resistance to a competition result that didn't please everybody. It was more like I expected any plot twist to come around, not in a kind of like a way that I was just giving up, but I really can't see how this could have come around in any other way. And the fact that it's all still in question, it's going to be dissected and it's going to go through legal processes and that, I think maybe there was a hope that because everybody's been talking about this, with the explosion of the internet and communication, we can all discuss breaking news on a minute by minute basis with everybody. So I think maybe there was a disappointment that surely if the bad guys know that we know the plan, maybe they won't be so arrogant as to actually follow through. And they did follow through, and they're still following through. And I think the thing about liars, seasoned liars who have a very, very dodgy moral compass, they will hang on to that lie forever. And they will probably try and, even when they're caught out, like legally, they will try and say, we were framed. We didn't, there was no nefarious plan here. Sorry, trying to keep the code words. And they will accuse the other side of exactly what they were doing. And they will hang on to that lie forever. And 100 years from now, historians will be writing about this, and there'll still be two different versions. And there'll be historians argue about the way stuff came around now, but the difference is we're blitzed with communication and forum and videos. But at the end of the day, regarding anything, you can still say, prove it, or you can just say, I didn't do it, or that's wrong, that's a lie. Oh, you framed me, prove it. Oh, that's been invalidated. There's no amount of evidence that anybody can ever present that a liar will not say, no, that's not true. That's not true. I remember going to school, and some of the guys who were always in trouble, they had no problem in just lying. If the lie got you out of something and you persist with the lie long enough, after a while, people will just actually start to question, maybe they are telling the truth. They haven't wavered in their lying, so maybe they are telling the truth. And I think this whole thing is a real test of endurance, because the world and all the naughty guys being in charge, they've had patience. Their families have had patience for centuries. To think that this could be unraveled in a space of a few weeks, months, years, whereas it would be beautiful, absolutely beautiful, maybe it will take as long to unravel the mess. But whereas that sounds horrendous, because obviously everybody in their life, especially through the lens of this year where everything's been brought to the surface through the supposed pathogen situation, it's like people are actually, what both of you were saying about the psychological warfare, the psychological endurance that's needed to get through this period. It's people are actually crying out, they're desperate for any glimmer of light now. And that's why I was talking about the sine wave. I didn't trust the hope's going to come up and then it will crash. The hope will come up and then it will crash. The hope will come up and you'll think we're finally coming out of it, and then it will go lower than you ever anticipated. But hopefully the upward climb will be worth it in the end. And it's very, I know it's flippant when you're actually in it, and there's people in other countries and other areas who are suffering way worse than me or Magenta are, because we're in the UK. We're obviously seeing things play out in a different way. But I've kind of meandered here. What was my original point?
No,
I kind of want a bit abstract. I think we were going to talk about the biggest thing that can get you through anything, not just this year, is having tools set up.
Having what set up?
Sorry, it went weird. That might have been a demon. Oh my goodness. Do you know what I mean? I've got a lot of weird comments about that lately.
Don't do
No, I ain't getting onto that. Right.
Having what set up?
Having the psychological stamina and endurance and the spiritual stamina and endurance to ride this thing. And for me, I don't know if you guys feel the same. For me, I feel like all the weird spiritual experiences I've ever had and all the anxieties that I could never place and just feeling like a stranger in the world, up until this year, I actually used to think it's been for nothing. My formative years, I never truly enjoyed it with my friends and my family because I always just had these niggling fears which I couldn't quantify. Now, in retrospect, and it's only in retrospect, you can see how you were being set up, you were being trained, and at the time you didn't understand it. But I actually feel like this year I've managed, in a lot of ways, I feel like I've already been through this stuff. I've already been through the feelings that this year has churned up in me, and I can recognize it. And it's not that I'm chilled, it's that in a weird kind of way, maybe I have been, I can't say the code word, Maxine, yeah? Maybe I've been spiritually Maxine-ated because my psychology already recognizes
immunity.
Yeah, I'm already not completely immune, but I've already experienced it in some way, shape, or form. Now it's playing out in the real world, whereas in the past, when I was like a crazy teenager or going through my like 20s, feeling all tormented by everything, maybe I was sensing something that, and now it's helping me now because I've already been through, I've already walked over all the broken glass, metaphorically. And now that it's here and everybody's doing it at the same time, you know, maybe it's lessened for me, and I maybe, you know, in some way we can help other people because it's brand new for them. It's brand new for them because this is, I think, one of the biggest misnomers is when me and Magenta were first making videos and stuff like 10, 12 years ago. And I was telling some of my friends what we were doing. They actually said, wow, it must be so peaceful in your house. And I actually thought that was astonishing. And I think a lot of people might have this kind of popular vision of what spiritual work is. And a lot of the times it's really challenging. It's really tormenting. It's like people who will talk about guardian angels and stuff. Whereas if you did actually meet a guardian angel who actually called you out on all the stuff you need to work on, it can often be a very hard process, a very hard process. It's not for the light, you know, it's not for the weak of heart. It's you can ask for this stuff, and I think everybody wants to reach this ultimate version of themselves, but sometimes people don't want to do the work, and then they get cross at all the gurus and all the people who are online. I don't especially like the word guru, but you know what I mean. They get cross at the people who are online trying to help them out, teaching them some good stuff because they want those instant results. And it's almost like they want the spiritual or new age community to almost be like a doctor. A lot of people will go to the doctor, I've got this problem, prescribe me something, give me a pill, give me a potion. I just want it to be over. I want to feel better. And a lot of people can approach the entire spiritual movement exactly the same way. And then they just get cross at the people who they can see an example of somebody and think, I really like that person, I want to be like them. But right from the get-go, they're setting themselves up for a failure. You shouldn't try to emulate somebody who you think is spiritually balanced. You need to be the best possible version of yourself. And if the best possible version of yourself also includes some weird darkness that's exclusive to you that you need to work on, there can be a gift in that, because you can bring that out of yourself, you can work on it, you can refine that, and you can use that exact darkness to either help other people out, or it's like a nut, you break it open and there could be something incredible in there that you never even guessed could be there. And then your own particular style of spirituality, your own flavor, it will become unique. And the ultimate thing is, once you actually accomplish that in one way, shape or form, and it's always an ongoing process, there's no completion, really. It's always an ongoing journey, and you always discover more and more and more. It's fractal. But once you actually make a breakthrough, the ultimate aim should be you share that with other people, because when you share it with other people, you give them the permission to do it themselves as well. And then they can think, wow, I was so anxious, I was shy, I was procrastinating, and maybe there is also something incredible within me. And in a way, you can think it's actually your duty. It's your duty to bring that out of yourself, because then you shine it out into the rest of humanity, and it wakes everyone else up, and it gives them this permission to be great as well. And then we just feed off each other, and it's glorious. And that's my little piece there. So before I get too crazy, and yeah, sorry, I'm feeling too emotional now, so I'm going to bring it back down, and I'm going to throw it back at you.
That's amazing stuff, Daniel. So wow, the wisdom's flowing there. It's cool. In fact, so much to comment on. So I'll just comment on a few things you said, and then pass over to Nina and see if there's anything she'd like to comment on from what you said. So I made some notes here, actually. First thing you said, one of the things you said that I wanted to comment on is when you said the arrogance of them continuing with the plan, knowing that so many people know what the plan is. And what I sense here is, whilst there is definitely an energy that could be perceived as arrogant, for sure, this God complex, it's more for me like, and I guess maybe this is the definition of arrogance, but it's more for me like, we will do this because it's our right to do this. Yes, I guess that is arrogance, but also there's fear there as well. So not in all of that structure. Some of that structure does have this confident arrogance, as in, we're allowed to do this. This is our planet, and we will do what we want, and you will put up with it. But there's also fear coming from that structure, which is, we are being seen, and our magic isn't working in the way it was, and we only have a certain time to get things done. And if we don't win the American competition and secure that position, which is so crucial for the agenda, then all could be lost. So there is a fear as well in that structure, as well as arrogance. But you also mentioned, you were saying about this potentially taking many years to unravel, and maybe in several years' time, they will look back, and even then there will still be two different philosophies about what actually happened. Whilst I don't necessarily see the energy as that, it's very similar. And if you remember, very close to the American competition, I think it was a day later or 2 days later, I had a dream, Daniel, where I dreamt about twins. There were twins. There were two of everything in my dream. And the first thought I had when I woke up is twins. And then I thought, is this the two worlds split, as in this extreme difference of paradigm and belief system across America and thus the planet? Or am I seeing a potential two winners of the competition setting up two houses that are white, if you will? So there will be a white house and another house similar. Now, I do think that that potentially could play out for a short while, where, and I think that this is happening now. I mean, we already have 2 winners of the competition. If you want to look at the belief system of the people, Mr. B has won in the eyes of many, Mr. T has won in the eyes of many. One is a false illusion and one is real. So we already have that twin. Would that potentially carry on? I mean, will the battle be so fraught, if you will, that there is 2 camps being set up with 2 sets of followers for that? I think that's likely, not completely absolute, but it's one of the ways that this could go. But will it last? Does it sustain? No, I don't feel that that's the case. There will be one winner of the competition. Everything will come back to that one path, Mr. T. So for a while, we might see the sort of twins, if you will. I loved what you said about this being an endurance test and how they have had patience, which they absolutely have, for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And we are being tested on our endurance. Now, taking years to fully unravel this, I'm seeing something like that. I feel that right now, the Starseeds, Truthers, Patriots, Aware individuals are already in a state of unity. They're there now. They don't need all these years to find unity and deal with the issues that have occurred in 2020. They're already in that structure. But everyone else who has been living in the false illusory reality, it's going to take time, because as you were saying, Daniel, you talked about having had some kind of rehearsal or having immunity, a vaccination to this in your life. What you are explaining there is the Starseed journey. Every Starseed will have had a lifetime that gives them the tools they need to cope with now. Because what's happening now, all of those that have had those tools, they've been through the dark night of the soul, they've been through all these various journeys in their life that has been such a struggle, and other people have never understood the Starseeds, the Indigos especially. Why are you always surrounded by drama? Why is something always happening in your life? It's like you can't seem to settle and just steadily move through your life. It's one dramatic event after another. That's been my life in a different way. That's been yours, Daniel, in a more sort of internal way, because you've been more of the crystal pathway, the blue ray pathway, whereas I'm indigo. And Nina, I see you also as crystal, but also very indigo. That's the Starseed path. Every Starseed will have been prepared for now. The reason being is all of the other individuals haven't been through this. This is the first time they're going through this huge purge and unraveling. And so we, the aware ones, are there to assist, which is why we're all in place as, if you will, leaders. But really, we're just normal people who have access to the internet, and we can speak and we can write and we can connect with one another. But we're there to help others when they need us. The newbies, as you said, Daniel, the brand new for those individuals and not for us. And as for the demon comment, the reason why I think Daniel made that comment is there have been a few troll-like comments, not obviously on this platform, because we do not have comments open, but coming in from other platforms. And so Daniel's had to sort of go around and follow my tracks digitally and block a few people. All I would say to anyone who truly believes that I have demons around me, you know, I'm not gonna stand here and try to convince you otherwise. You have every right to perceive that. And what I would say to you is, please just don't watch me. Just stop watching me. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing whatsoever, no matter what anyone says. Just don't watch me. If you truly believe there are demons around me and I'm channeling demons, go watch someone else. It's so easy to just switch off. Can I
comment just brief? I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because
But it's been winding you up, hasn't it?
I know, but as your husband and your PA, it's you know, part of my duties to get a feel of what's going on. And like I say, I don't want to spend too much time on this. It really hasn't been that big a deal in terms of numbers, because
No,
both me
it
and
doesn't bother
Magenta.
me, but it doesn't bother me. It's like it's been happening in one way or another since I got online, and the 9 told me that it would. But because it's happening and you're the one that's seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously I feel like defensive of you just on a normal, like, you know, husbandy vibe, but I also have got such respect for your work that you've created over like years and years. And as I say, it's the absolute minority, and I shouldn't let it you know, because we're absolutely overwhelmed by the positivity we receive and the help and the support. So I don't know why it's wound me up so much. So
Well, it's quite normal.
I've got to let it slide. I really do.
If you are in a relationship and somebody is attacking your partner, there's a very rare person that isn't going to react to that, especially when it's a man attacking a woman, you know, without sort of getting into gender roles. Most men can just about tolerate a woman attacking their wife. And if their wife gets into an argument with another woman, it's like, well, that's women, you know, they're having it. Let's let them sort of play it out. But when a man sees a man attack their wife or girlfriend or partner, then the man is compelled to step in the protective role. So that's completely normal.
I think the biggest shame here, the biggest shame is, like I say, it's not. I've let it go to a large degree now. I think the biggest shame is that some of these people are clearly incredibly intelligent and researched, but they've come to some strange conclusions. And rather than actually even attempt to open up a dialogue with you through me to say, hey, I'm seeing this, let's talk about it, they just go straight for the hit piece. It's just like the media. And
Daniel, there wouldn't be any point though, because I would not enter into a dialogue with those people. But what I would say is what you said. Look at the amount of people that are sending us emails every day, absolutely loving the work we do. We have gifts sent through the post to us. We have people telling us all the time how much they love our work. And I think, you know, this minority few, just let that go. But
maybe not open up a dialogue, but I think that, for example, if I had genuine concerns about a practitioner, I would think it over and think, well, we're still all human beings. We're still trying to figure this out. We're still trying to figure out all the dark sides of psychology, the dark sides of spirituality. If I really felt called to actually warn people or educate people on another practitioner, I feel like I feel like I can trust myself that I would respectfully bring forward some ideas and either in an article or a video, and rather say this person is that and they're doing that, and I'm going to throw a few swear words into the mix and I'm going to blankety blank this and what have you. Like, to me, as soon as you start ranting and shouting and screaming, you kind of lose your credibility as a source of information, and obviously it's healthy to have a debate about any of this stuff. Of course it is. But to categorically say this person is that and that person is that and this is what they're doing, I think it's such a shame, because if that same person could redirect their energy for the greater good and think, I want to explore this, let's get people together to look at this weird thing that I'm feeling, I think it's heartbreaking, because these people could really turn it around, and they could actually use that, like I was saying earlier, they could use that dark side of themselves where they feel angry or they feel triggered or they feel a particular calling and they're wound up by a certain kind of person. If they could actually work on that, they could actually create some amazing content which would actually help everybody and cast an even greater light on the dark areas, rather than just attack everybody and go, you're channeling demons, you are a demon, no, you're a demon. Yeah, but I saw you shapeshift on the webcam. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Let us hope that they do. Let us hope that they do come to that place.
Let's just draw a line under that now. It's all good.
Nina,
it's all good.
Did you have any comments on anything that Daniel said?
Yes. So the messages that I've been getting are not a race. And this is absolutely about spiritual endurance. And I can say that I've never been so grateful for the fact from the time I was a little girl that I was born into warfare, really, because and I know that I, amongst many, many star seeds, were. Most of us didn't grow up with the white picket fence normal. Most of us felt like outcasts of society. We were judged in school. Also, our own BS meters, because that truth was so strong within us, it didn't really work when gaslighting was attempted upon us, or the brainwashing that I feel most of society took on. I remember going to school, and when the children around me were just being brainwashed, my mind could not be brainwashed, and no matter how much I tried. And it was very frustrating for me at the time because I didn't understand. Instead, I would be picking up on everything around me and know this about this person and that about this person and this teacher, and processing everyone's emotions. But I can honestly say that I understand now why so many of us went through initiation after initiation after initiation after initiation, because we were literally raised up for this time. And when we were born onto this planet, so many of us knew, I'm here for the Great Awakening. I'm here to make a change on the world. There's going to be this incredible new earth awakening, and I'm here for the birth of the new consciousness. But we had no idea how that was going to play out. And here we are in the midst of this psychological warfare. And if we hadn't gone through those trials and those tribulations, it's very interesting, because I've been reading Revelation from a completely different perspective and seeing it's so psychological. And I have a friend who's wonderful, who was a biblical scholar, but is also very much activated with spiritual gifts. And so he's been translating for me, and we've been comparing notes. And we've both been really talking about how this is in Revelation, it's so psychological. And I was looking at how so many of the star seeds and so many of us that have gone through abuse after abuse after abuse, we've gone through all the trials and tribulations along the way. We were attacked all along. We were attacked for starting to speak out the truth and being called conspiracy theorists and not buying into all of this. We constantly go through trial after trial because we have to play the roles that we came to play. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that so many of us have gone through the dark nights of the souls, because now we can be voices of light in this darkness, be shining lighthouses for those that are freaking out, and say, listen, I've been there. I can assist you to support you. These are the tools that I used. You're not going crazy. You're waking up. So I think that that's really, I'm just very grateful. And it's nice to be grateful for those things and to see them from this entirely new perspective. I also think it's interesting that you were talking about the two timelines, or the two, when you were saying two twins, Magenta, the twins. It reminds me of also information that I downloaded, which was Earth 1 and Earth 2. And Earth 1 was this timeline of 3D, 4D, and it was only predominantly lower chakra. Those on that timeline don't have the ability yet to operate in the higher chakras. And so it was the hardest lessons over and over and over: war, competition, survival, a lot of pain. And the Earth 2, well, actually that was the Earth 1. So Earth 2 would be the timeline 3D, 4D. Earth 1 was the timeline 5D, higher Christed consciousness, awakening, higher chakras. So what's very interesting to me is that I've been really understanding the information I've been downloading is you're all witnessing a galactic mirror. And so those that have been brainwashed, have bought into the system, have bought into what is actually sociopathic psychological behavior as normal, they can't see it. They're used to just giving their trust over to someone else. They're used to being led. They're used to being right. It doesn't matter. Like Daniel, you were talking about the liars. A sociopath has convinced themselves that they're not lying. And that's what I've had to realize is I've dealt with sociopaths in my own life. It doesn't matter if you present concrete facts to them. If they are a sociopath, they psychologically believe their own story. And that's what we're dealing with here. So I think that maybe some part of us, when we're these very innocent, bright-hearted, starseed, angelic beings, we can't understand that. And we keep going, well, when is their consciousness going to kick in? When is their empathic ability going to kick in? They don't have it. And we also have to understand that a lot of the people that are supporting them, so people that are supporting B, what I'm really realizing is a lot of those people were broken. They were targeted from young ages like many of us, but they still are dealing with broken hearts. And they've been beaten down by society, and so they're angry. And if you are dealing with a lot of that anger and rage, and you haven't dealt with it, like the dark night of the soul, what I've been clearly seeing is that is the reflection of the B timeline. That is what they're banking on, is people that are living in beaten down. They've been beaten down and they feel like the world is against them. And those that are operating on a higher level of taking responsibility for what they've been through in life, willing of Mr. T and 5D, which is a funny thing because call Mr. T a narcissist. He's indeed absolutely the farthest thing from that. He serves Prime Creator. It's so clear if your eyes are open to that. There was so much that was just spoken about. Yeah, those were the points.
Thank you, Nina. We lost you slightly there just at the end, but I think we've pretty much got everything you said. I would say to those people you're talking about that are, as you say, beaten down or traumatized, and you're saying that they don't have that ability to be empathic or to activate or to wake up spiritually. We each have that within our human makeup, but it's true that some individuals, that's been buried because of the experiences, because of the trauma. They will all be given the opportunity, every soul will be given the opportunity to activate that, but it may not happen in this lifetime. So this lifetime right now, 2020, all of those who are activated and aware, the starseeds, the truthers, the patriots, the way showers, the wanderers, they are all coming into the lifetime where they move into that awakening. They will have had lifetimes before where they've been awake. So this is not their first lifetime where they've woken up, whether it's on Earth, whether it's somewhere else, but or whether they've come in as a first lifetime, they would have come in with already activated higher DNA. So that starseed collective consciousness is already in that state from whatever path. So the others are going through the pre-lifetimes before that happens for them. So it may not occur for them in this lifetime. It still may, because there is another multiple waves of awakening yet to come, which is a great segue into our next topic. We were going to talk about the going back to your houses and not being able to go out, and how that connects to the pathogen. And obviously that's connected to the American competition. So what the 9 showed me is here in the United Kingdom, we are still on the, we're on the program where we have to stay in our houses. Although it's slightly different to the one earlier this year because children can still go to school. But Mr. J has announced today the intention is for us to come out of that staying in our houses around the 2nd of December and go back to this system where each regional area has different a different program, if you will. Difficult to talk in code. And so that's kind of where we are in the UK. And going forward, we're looking at what is going to happen to the situation with us in the UK, with other countries and globally. Now, what they said to me, what the Nine said to me is, we are in the UK, and I wasn't sure if the Nine were meaning this to be a global sort of trigger word. I think what they're saying is this is a UK trigger word. It's a global trigger word, but it's the UK timing. And what I'm talking about is the going back to the houses. There's been the first one. So the first going back to the houses, the second going back to the houses, which is what we're in now. And then there will be, and don't be too worried about this because it's ultimately positive, but you know, we have to go through this stuff. There will be a third going back to the houses. When they announce the third going back to the houses, that's when everything starts to fall apart. And it will coincide with what is occurring within the American competition and everything that's coming out of that. So it's happening at the same time. And this is obviously in other countries too, throughout Europe, Australia. You know, this is happening in all the countries. This is a global movement. So when we hear the words, the third going back to the houses, the Nine have said that's the sign, and this is specific to when the UK hear it. So it's obviously tiered. Different countries will hear the third going back to the houses at different times. But when the UK hears it, that's when everything's going to start to fall apart. So what they said was with the first going back to the houses, that created a huge awakening. But it worked for them. It worked for the negative structure. It didn't really make a dent in their agenda, other than the agenda wasn't working, as in the pathogenic part of the agenda didn't work in the way it was intended to. But the going back to the houses did work. The second going back to the houses, there's been a dent made in the agenda, enough to push the agenda back, enough for them to have to choose a different pathway with that agenda, maybe move to plan B or C or D. It's made a dent, but it's not enough to make the agenda fall. It's not enough to begin the collapse. It's made a dent, and that's where we are now. When we get to the third going back to the houses, that is enough to make the dent. And the reason being is the first going back to the houses created a huge awakening, but there were still many, many asleep. The second going back to the houses created yet more of an awakening. Wow, look at all these awake people, but still not enough. When the third going back to the houses occurs, because they're saying things like, we won't do this again, and it's all tied up with the vaccines and the thing you have to do to find out whether you have the pathogen or not, and all those things. When the third one comes, it will be like they've gone back on their promises, gone back on their word. And that's when people will say, no, enough is enough. And that creates a huge awakening. And it's like these three waves of awakening. The first wave of awakening, the first wave of the pathogen is the first wave of the awakening. The second wave of the pathogen, whether it's an actual wave or an engineered wave. Now, I would say it's the latter, despite the fact that we have people who are unwell. That's because there are winter pathogens that occur every winter, and that winter pathogen has been used as a scapegoat. So the same tactics with the pathogen and the going back to the houses are the same tactics that have been used with the American competition. So the reason why this is kind of like a ripple effect and why it all happens at the same time is when information comes out, which is starting now, be really clear about that. Now, this week, right now, the information regarding the US competition comes out, and then we find out that the competitions across the world have all been similar for many, many years. At the same time, this is going to lead to the pathogen story, the pathogen illusion, and the going back to the houses illusion, all tied up together. Everything comes out at once. And that is what is set. And the reason why that is, well, it's not set as in a definite, but it's as set as it can be. you know, in the
Mhm.
timelines. This is like a way
Mhm.
above 90% in the timelines.
Mhm.
The reason for that is, if it wasn't that way, if it wasn't this flurry of revealing on all these levels and this huge awakening, which is absolutely the inevitability and rolls towards this inevitability. So that aspect is set, it's going to happen regardless. But if it wasn't that now within this next few months, then we would be on that other timeline that you were talking about, which would be Mr. B. And really, it's not Mr. B, it's Mrs. or Miss H,
Yeah.
K8.
Uh-huh.
That's where the agenda was. That's what it would, and then what that would be is the pathogen would be blown up much more than it is now. The pathogen illusion and the going back to the houses would be global, and then there would be, but that isn't what's in the timelines. That's not where we're heading. We're hurtling towards this huge awakening. And when right at the beginning in March, when I looked at the global situation, when I looked at the planet, it was like this closing in of this attempted planetary takeover, this agenda. And it was there. And there was like this little stargate that they couldn't get to. And that was Mr. T and Mr. T's team. So it was like a bit that they couldn't get to. It was like they were everywhere else, but that was free. It's like they just couldn't get to that bit. But now, in November, this Stargate, this bit that they couldn't get to, is right across the planet. It's like it's spread. So now it's not a case of we've got the planet except this bit. Now it's a case of we're trying to keep hold of the planet and we can't get hold of it because this little bit here is spread. And even though it doesn't look like that on the surface, that is what it is energetically. Absolutely. What do you guys? So that's the sort of pathogen, going back to the houses chat. Daniel, Nina, which one would like to comment? Either, both?
I think Nina went first.
Go on, Nina.
Well, I'll just talk about the US because it's a little bit different over here. So I see the same thing. It's going to be state by state. That's already starting to happen in different ways. It's not where I am, but in other areas it is. And same thing. The more that the truth comes out, the more the pathogen is going to blow up. And the more the truth comes out, the more the pathogen is going to blow up. It's just a distraction. And it's also to keep people separated so they're not speaking truth with each other. Also, the censorship is going to try to increase the censorship. From what I'm understanding now, they're going to try to start increasing censorship in Europe with uncensored platforms like Telegram and such like that, because they know this stuff is spreading like wildfire. But what we have to realize is the more that it looks bad, the more that the circus newscasters, can I say that? The circus casters, we all know what I'm talking about. The more that they're presenting an untruthful story, the more that they're putting the circus in your face, you have to understand that that's because they're losing the competition. And so from this perspective of we're really watching a show, if we can remain in a state of, well, you know what, I know that I came from 5D future new earth, or I wouldn't have known as a child, that wouldn't have been planted in my heart and soul when I awoke as a child of knowing and remembering why I came here. I remember it because it is, and there's no way it's not going to occur. It's going to occur. It's already occurred. Future proofs past. God wins. We know this. Now we just ride it out. We didn't know what it was going to look like. It doesn't look like all butterflies and bunnies, but you know what? It's going to make us incredible. Through this, what I'm seeing is, as every time that I've ever gone through a dark night of the soul experience, my life has gone to the next level. So I keep going, wow, if the whole planet is going through this together, we're about to go to an incredible level of awakening, because that's always how it is. We are being initiated to arrive to something we've just can barely dream of. It's so beautiful. So that's my positivity of every time there's an attack, I go, okay, Creator, what miracle are you going to do with this? Wow, okay, there's another blooming in this virus. What miracle is going to come out of this? And then I keep seeing what's happening with every time something negative occurs, more truth comes out. Negative truth. They're just fighting back. But it's a battle they'll never win. So as long as we know that, we don't have to let that concern our fear in the moment psychologically. But I was shown yesterday, it did come up in conversation, and I saw a bit of what was to come. Probably there's going to be a lot of an attempted attack around the Christmas time holidays, especially because this is a divine time. They know we're getting close to the 21st. And so they're probably going to increase the lockdown measures around that time in certain areas. I don't know if you're seeing that, but that's what I'm seeing. Just anything that's going to squelch our happiness and love, because the more that we raise our vibration, the more that they can attack that. The vibration is so high right now. The star seeds globally are holding it in such a high that they've absolutely lost a hold of any control and power, and they're freaking out. That's what's so funny about this is they might look like they're in control, but they are absolutely freaking out. They're running around like chickens with their head cuts off because they know that they're done. But they are, like Daniel said, sociopathic behavior, it's never going to admit it was wrong unless they have come to the creator moment. But most of them, that's not in their lifetime experience. It's not what they've chosen. And so that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, regarding Christmas, absolutely. They're using that time as a dangling a carrot in front of us. They're definitely doing that in the UK. Like, will Christmas be saved? Will Christmas be ruined? And maybe we'll do this at Christmas. Maybe we'll allow you to do that. They really are in a situation where they can't restrict too much, because if they do, everyone is going to not listen, and they don't have the ability to bring the law in to those that follow the law, those that uphold the law and wear costumes. They don't have enough of those people. So I think that they have to try to navigate that somehow, but they will also use it as part of the sine wave that Daniel was talking about. That's I would like to touch on a potential next step in the agenda after Daniel has spoken. So Daniel, what did you think about what we both said there?
I wanted to pick up on what Nina was saying before about the sociopathic kind of personality. And I agree, there is a point where I think we're going to have to not relent, but we're going to have to accept these people aren't going to change. They're not going to capitulate. They're not going to compromise. They're not going to grow. They're not going to empathize. And their key tool, their key weapon in their arsenal is I like what you said, that the circus casters, And I think the only thing I've really been disappointed about this whole year since the pathogen explosion supposedly happened is I thought with the birth and the spread of the internet is such a wonderful communication device, because it's a forum where both mainstream and alternative can get together. Obviously, some people kind of polarize one way or the other, but I thought in this modern age, it was more mixed up and people were more open-minded to alternative, sometimes wacky viewpoints. And I think this year I have been quite weirded out to find out that a lot of people, unfortunately, still take the mainstream as the final word, the final gospel truth. Just the same way people will think that their personal doctor has the ultimate answer. You can entertain alternative therapies, but the ultimate answer has to come to your doctor and what he prescribes you. And that's why doctors and the mainstream circus casters are very similar in that respect. And I have been disappointed by people I know who think that they're well researched. And I'm not saying this with any arrogance, I hope, but they think that they're well researched because they look at every possible news channel, every possible newspaper, all the mainstream stuff, and they think that means they're informed, because they feel that if these channels and these companies are in a position to report, and all these journalists, they must be professionals, they must be intelligent, they must be credible, and they must be respectful, ethical people to have got where they are. And obviously, in an ideal society, that would be paradise, to think that you could turn on your television and get accurate reporting from intelligent people with integrity and honor, who are interested in the truth and the exploration of truth and ideas. That is the ideal. And I think, unfortunately, people think that we are in that state now, as in the circus casters are reliable. And I think it's going to be a big wake-up call, because it's like when you're a child. If you live in if you've grown up in a balanced household, you trust your parents, and then you trust your teachers and the other adults in your life. And a child should not have to question, I wonder if my mum or dad is telling me the truth about this thing, because you accept it. Obviously, you grow up and you start to discern and question things. But I think a lot of people are still very much in the child phase with how they see the media, and then higher up their local government, and then their national government, and then the international governments all talking to each other. They think that these people are in positions of power, have their best interests at heart, and that they are reliable and they're doing the right thing ultimately. And they think, well, surely these people wouldn't be in these positions of power unless they'd worked their way up through school and college and university. And surely the bad guys would have been spotted by now if they were up to no good. And I think to a lot of people, to even say that that could possibly be true, it's too much for them. It's too much for them. And there's that saying, ignorance is bliss. In a lot of ways, it would have been easier if I'd had a more regular kind of experience growing up, and I wasn't tormented by anxiety and feeling like, the odd one out. And what Magenta was saying regarding how this is going to play out in the next few months. Oh, has Nina gone?
Oh, it's okay. She might pop back in a minute.
Oh, she had choppy.
She's had a choppy internet, yeah. So carry on, and we'll see if she pops back.
I was saying that a lot of people still are. Oh, there she is. I was saying
we lost
that
you for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, please.
I was saying that a lot of people over the next few months, when you were saying that the third stay-at-home situation might be the tipping point, we should have decided on the code words before. The stay-at-home situation. When the third one comes along, it will shake people up so much that even the people who like to believe the mainstream circus casters, even they will be like, hang on, this is too much. This is too much. There's only so much I'm going to listen to this. Just like a group of school children. And sooner or later, if their teacher is saying more and more outlandish stuff, punishing them for stuff they're not even doing, even the most well-behaved children, sooner or later, will say, this isn't adding up. This isn't adding up. There's too many inconsistencies in this whole story. I'm being told I'm misbehaving when I'm not. I'm being told that there's threats out there that there isn't. I'm being told statistics. I'm being told statistics and numbers, and being shown graphs which don't tally up, because I'm looking around and I'm talking to other people. And I've talked to so many people since March, and they don't know people who've experienced these things. They don't know anybody who's experienced these things. And it's like, they're still saying, well, that news outlet is reporting this, so I'm going to go by what that's saying. So that has been the only thing I've truly been concerned about. And regarding Mr. B, in Mr. B's campaign, I think it's an example of that sociopathic arrogance again, because one of their campaign logos, which they would have on a curtain behind them, battle for the soul of America. How sinister is that? And here's the thing. I almost sounded like him then. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Come on, man. It's the people who are lost in the middle. If you've got the bad guys, the sociopaths at one end, who are not going to change the way they operate and their attitudes they have, because they just think we're all profane, and we need to be told what to do, and we need to be harvested, for want of a better word. It's the people in the middle who are like children, and they don't know which way to turn, and they think, well, the authorities, the governments, they will ultimately help us out, because that's what they're there for. And they are probably the biggest commodity, because if you can win a group of people over, if the mainstream circus casters can actually convince all the people who don't want to question and aren't interested in alternative viewpoints, if they can finally convince them that everything we've been telling you on the mainstream news is the truth, then that's their ultimate weapon, because it's like they have recruited them. And if they can recruit more people into the mainstream camp than the alternative, the division then starts to solidify, so that all of us, and I mean all of us, can be labeled as a particular number of the alphabet.
Yes.
Cult, member of that cult. And it's baloney. I mean, me personally, I'm aware of the alphabet number thing, but I don't pay particular interest in it. It's just one of a variety of sources. I'm really not that interested. I'm not that interested in the latest drop or breaking it down. A lot of people are, and I've got respect for their work if they think it's a useful source of information. For me, it's neither one thing or the other, really. I think maybe it's noteworthy, but I'm not interested in it enough for me to be actually labeled as a letter of the alphabet conspiracist or I'm in a cult. It's nonsense. It's like, today I ate 2 bananas, okay? But I might not eat a banana again until this time next week. It doesn't mean I'm a banana fanatic. It doesn't mean I'm in a cult of banana crazies just because I had 2 bananas one time. And it's the same thing. The whole, and the thing, the letter of the alphabet thing has been around for ages. And it's like they all at once exploded about it, like it's a big thing. But like I said, I think a lot of people are only have a very passing interest to it. It's not the big deal everybody makes it out to be. And it's almost like, it's like at school, like with children, and they say, oh, you've got cooties. And it's like, once you've got that, it's like they're just saying, oh, you're into that stuff. That means you're this thing. And that's in a nutshell which has concerned me most greatly. The fact that a lot of people still aren't even willing to entertain anything which isn't ultimately verified by the mainstream circus casters. And I think until we can actually, as a people, as a society, actually think there might actually be some good stuff on the other side there. And like I said, I don't want there to be like, I don't want it to be a battle for the soul of anybody. Battle for the soul, that suggests that somebody is trying to get it, trying to own it, trying to win it. Battle for a soul. A soul, any person has the right to change their mind an infinite number of times whilst they let things swirl and turn around in their mind. I don't want to be just one thing. I'm not in a cult. I'm not anti-mainstream. The ultimate goal is for us to all work together, figure out all the weird stuff that's happening and iron it out. so that one day the mainstream media will actually be good and fair, and you
And
can
that will happen.
relax. Imagine
Yes.
how great it would be to turn on your TV
Yeah.
and relax and think, this news channel, I trust them with this story. I don't have to go around chasing all the alternative narratives because they have actually done that for me. That is paradise. That's utopia. And I really hope the mainstream media does actually evolve into that one day.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and that will happen. I'm sorry you're having such internet problems, Nina. I also love the circus caster. That's a really good code word for those individuals and those groups. So yeah, Nina appears to be having
Oh, her picture's frozen.
Yeah, it has.
Are you there, Nina? Oh, she's gone again.
No, she's not. So perhaps she'll come back. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you made some really good points there, and as I said, I've said this before. The circus casters are holding up the paradigm of the individuals who are sleeping. Without the circus casters holding up that sort of wall, that's what's holding up the Mr. B has won, or the pathogenic story. Talking about the circus casters, Nina, I was saying how it's a wonderful term. Thank you for that. I'll use that in the future. It's great. The circus casters are holding up that wall that's keeping the paradigm within the sleepers. So we'll get you to speak, obviously, before your internet goes again. The next sort of thing I'd like to look at is the next step of the agenda. There are individuals that are saying that we potentially are going to be in for some kind of power outage, possibly the internet, possibly television, but also maybe electricity, gas, water even, that we may be out of power for a while. Now, this has not come from the Nine, but I'm hearing lots of people talk about it, and I'm getting emails asking me this question repeatedly. Many are calling it the 10 days of darkness and saying that this is coming. So I'll tell you what the Nine have said about this, and then I'd love your opinion on this, Nina. And obviously do comment on anything you'd like to that Daniel said, because he did raise a lot of really good points there. So what I know from the Nine is they haven't really mentioned 10 days of darkness. They have not told me about any kind of power outage. But what they did say is the dark agenda. I think we might have lost Nina. Have we lost you, Nina? Are you still there? We may have lost Nina. So I'll just carry on and pick up when she comes back. I had a feeling that her internet might not sort of hold. But
should we ask her to maybe just go on audio? It might work better.
One thing, yeah, that's an idea. When she pops back, I'll see if that might help. Maybe that would work. So what the Nine have said to me is that the dark agenda uses all of the elements across the globe. So water, air, fire, all of the elements, earth, and not just the ground, but space. And one thing I saw, and I'll speak, Nina, perhaps it might be an idea if you went on audio only. Might that help with your internet if you turn the video off? And
yeah, it's possible. We're getting a ton of wind here, so yeah. Just stop video. Is that what I do?
Yeah, stop the video, so you're just on audio, and then maybe okay. So what I was saying is the Nine haven't actually told me 10 days of darkness. Neither have they said that there'll be a power outage. But what they have said is that all the elements will be used in the agenda, the dark agenda: air, water, earth, fire, and the ground and space. And one thing I saw was some activity in space around the earth. So yes, there's a spiritual, there's loads of spiritual galactic movements going on, and light coming in and solar flares and that sort of thing. But that there may actually be a man-made activity. Are you still there, Nina? Okay, so I think we've lost her again. There may be some kind of man-made activity, man-made explosion in space or something like that. And obviously that could cause a power outage. Now, whilst the 9 showed me this activity, they didn't mention power outage at all. They haven't really mentioned anything like the internet going off. They haven't mentioned the television switching, or that, switching off, or that we would lose any kind of power. Whenever they've spoken to me about 3 days of darkness, it has been to do with the 0 point field within the galactic expression, rather than a moving forward or moving back. It's kind of like a still point, and that was the return to the galactic core, the whole sort of 2012 moment, which potentially is totally mimicked on the winter solstice this year, 2020. So whilst I haven't had that information from the 9, I have been asked the questions. So what I'm saying is, what I feel is that a power outage on a global scale is extremely unlikely, to the point where I don't see it. Even if there is this explosion in space, or some kind of created event in space aimed at knocking out the power grid, I feel that that's the agenda. I feel it's absolutely the agenda, because if they can shut the power grid down, everyone is completely helpless. They can't connect with one another. And then, so it's the whole sort of problem, reaction, solution. And that would be the worst problem ever, because there's no electricity, there's no gas, nothing. I think the chances of that happening globally are so unlikely. Might this happen in smaller pockets and smaller areas? I think that is more likely.
Yeah.
But if this does happen, what I'm seeing is, rather than, some people are saying this is set to happen for 18 months to 2 years or longer, what I'm seeing is this happening if it does happen, it's going to be in pockets and for very small amounts of time. So 10 days may well fit, but I personally haven't been given 10 days of darkness from the 9, but others are talking about it. I've had lots of emails about it. And so I'm saying it's a possible. And so what I would say to people is, I think, rather than, don't get afraid by it. Don't be sitting there thinking, oh no, we're going to lose power. Just imagine, how would you cope if you did? What might you need? Some firewood, a wood burner, a torch, some candles, tinned food that you can eat cold, growing your own food and herbs. And, what would you need if that did occur, to try to tide you over for a small amount of time? I think preparing doesn't mean you are in a state of fear. I think it's good to be prepared. So absolutely prepare yourself, go out and accumulate things that you might need that might assist you through this time. But I don't necessarily see this in any big way, but I definitely see some attempt for it. This is the thing. It's the agenda. Will it work? Unlikely. It's the same thing as the pathogen. The agenda was far worse than what actually happened. None of these agendas are actually occurring in the way that they are implemented. Nothing will occur globally to put the entire human race and planet Earth into a situation of absolute true emergency and jeopardy. There are other forces around this planet and within us, emanating from the light workers and starseeds, coming in from extraterrestrial energies, that are holding space for the preservation of humanity. So if these things happen, they're on smaller scales in smaller areas. I'm not seeing it as global, but there's nothing wrong with being prepared. What do you think, Nina? Are you still there, Nina, on audio? I think we've lost her again. What do you think, Daniel? And then perhaps when Nina comes back, we'll let her jump straight in, so she gets a chance to speak before she loses internet again.
Well, it's inevitable when any kind of crisis happens, locally or globally. People want to be prepared in every way. Are you there, Nina?
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, Nina, what do you think? Please let us know what you think about a potential power outage and some kind of space explosion, 10 days of darkness. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely have not seen that. I know that that's going around. It's been going around for a while. I also do not see that. Um, to be honest, I am not prepared in any way, shape, or form, nor have I been told to get prepared for any type of food outage or anything like that. So, and that's also where I am in Florida in the States. I think it could be different state by state. I have been seeing exactly what you said, Magenta. There could be little power outages here and there. And what I'm seeing is it's going to be more in the cities where a lot of more of the danger is going to be anyways. As far as what I'm seeing in the States, I see like LA, New York City. I see a lot going on in Paris still. I don't see as much going on in the UK. I feel like the UK is a bit safer than certain areas, just as far as the attempts that might occur or may not. I mean, as far as I feel like Paris is more targeted, and New York City specifically, certain areas are being very targeted. So that's just what I'm seeing, and I'm not getting the messages to go out and stock up on tons of toilet paper or paper towels. One thing I did want to say is what's great that's happening over here is, even though the mayors, the governors are telling their states these are the lockdown things, like in California, for example, the sergeants of the police departments are standing up and saying, no, we won't enforce those. So what we're starting to see is people in powerful places, those that would actually be making arrests, enforcing these laws, are standing up and saying, I won't be enforcing that. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, that's great. I always saw that, actually. I saw the law enforcement standing with the people. Are you still there, Nina?
I'm still here.
Oh, good. So thank you. Yeah, I haven't been told to prepare either. The 9, I'm sure they would have shown me in some way that I would need to do this. And yeah. I haven't been told that. Having said that, I have bought some extra supplies, and I did buy a little camping stove. Neither of us have a clue how to use it. It's just to be prepared. It's not done through fear. I just thought, it's always good. If you had a power outage for 24 hours even, it's good to have an alternative cooking source and some matches and a torch. So, candles, so that sort of thing. I'm not seeing this huge disaster scenario, but I do feel it's part of the agenda. I absolutely feel it's part of the agenda, but that it will be blocked, and they will not be able to implement it in the way that they would like. And that's Jasper. That is the second half of our cat. He's decided to show us his tail. That's Jasper. So, Daniel, what do you think of the 10 Days of Darkness scenario?
There you go, bud. I'm kind of similar to Nina, as in, like, at least where we are, I don't feel any kind of immediate concern. When there's a crisis going on, it's inevitable that people are going to worry about their physiological safety, gas, heat, light, food, and the supply chains. Fortunately, I don't think it's particular. I don't feel, because I'm not making a projection, I just don't really feel like we need to get crazy prepared. But then I don't want to be too far the other way either, because I know, like, it's always good to develop new skills. It's always good to think, well, what would I do in this scenario? It's always good to think, well, do I have to rely on the power companies? Could I make my own heat, light, shelter? Of course, it's always good to, add strings to your bow as such. So very similar to Nina, I think it could potentially, that there'll be little pockets and problematic areas, but I think that more than likely we would get fair warning of the way it's going. And regarding if there was any lack. Saying that, I don't want to, I just reminded myself, there was, we can discuss this in another thing. There was a dream I had years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago. And it's the only dream I've ever had where I felt like I need to write this down. I haven't really been, even though I've had loads of crazy, vivid, abstract dreams, I've never kept a dream journal or a diary. Like most people, I just discuss my interesting dreams with other people. This is the only dream I've ever had in my life where I felt I need to write this down word for word. and I'd done this. This was like 12 years ago? I think it was 2000.
10 or 11 years ago.
I think it was 2008.
We'd been together about a year.
It was when we
together
lived
for a year, and we've been together. No, actually, you're right. It's longer. We've been together 17 and a half years, and we'd only been together a year when you had the stream. So this is 16 and a half years ago.
I think it might be 2006. As I say, I wrote it down, I dated it, and I just printed it on a bit of paper, thought, I need to write this down. It was so vivid and just so powerful, and the imagery. And I wrote it down, I printed it out, and then I just put it in a box, just put it away, and thought, I don't know what that's about. I'll just put it away. And then I discovered it like a year and a half ago. And me and Magenta have been talking about that on and off. And a big part of it does seem to describe the story that's kind of happening now in certain ways. A lot of it, just like, I guess, like the book of Revelation, it seems to be encoded in symbology. I'm not saying like I'm the world's greatest prophet or anything, but who knows, these random things come through to sometimes unlikely characters. So maybe I can find that and I can read that out in a future one. Yeah. But regarding, so yeah, in that dream there did seem to be maybe warnings about sort of governmental services and stuff being shut down or compromised, things about water. I hope it was just a dream of a potential scenario which could play out in a dystopian kind of scenario. It would be interesting to revisit that and consider it, because it happened so long ago, this dream, that maybe it's good, because now when I read that, I don't feel any kind of personal ownership, like, check out my prophecy, everybody. I'm so far away, distanced from that I can actually read this fresh and consider it as if someone else wrote it. And as I say, it's the only dream I've ever had. I felt I have to write this down. So that's noteworthy.
Here's me saying we haven't had any warnings from the higher energies, but clearly between us we have, actually, if we take that dream.
And then that whole computer game thing that happened, it is strange.
The whole vaccine thing, I mean, that occurred before you even met me, when you were a teenager, and I hold such store because of the way that synchronicity occurred. So what I'm thinking is, if there is going to be a power outage, I honestly feel the Nine will show me that. Now, they have shown me this potential space situation where there's this flash of light, and there are two. There's an organic light source that is part of the evolution of this planet and ascension, the rapture, the event, whatever you want to call it. But there's also this man-made one as well, the hijacking of that. So whether that is something that might be an attempt to create a power outage, but absolutely, I forgot that your dream did have, wasn't it the water was off in your dream? That everyone was sent to their houses in your dream?
I'd have to...
That's the thing. We were on the down of the lot variety.
Well, I think I'll have to go through it thoroughly to see exactly what was said. But the opening bit was that the government had decided to shut down all services for a period of 2 weeks. Gas, 2 weeks, electricity, food, water, everything. But they had assured us that on the other side of this, everything would be way better. And it seems to match too closely what's going on. But I don't want to get into that now, because I think that needs more care.
Yeah, make another video. But that is the agenda. It would be, oh, don't worry, everything on the other side is better. And then they can reboot the system with a more integrated AI control system. No, I don't see that happening. So what I'd just like to say, obviously, Nina, if you've got any more comments about what Daniel said, do say. But what I'd like to also ask you is, as you were removed from certain social media platforms, where can people find you, Nina? Because I have had quite a few people ask me where you are. So where can people find you?
Okay, so I moved over to Telegram and I have a channel and a channel chat. So it's Telegram, Nina Star Song Pleiadian Transmissions, just like on Facebook. But from what I've understood, the search engine on there is not easy to navigate. So if you put in Nina Star Song Pleiadian Transmissions, unfortunately, it does not always come up. Maybe we'll be able to put the link underneath this so people can find their way there. But people can also always email me. That's probably the safest bet right now, because we know that that way isn't going anywhere. So ninastarsong@yahoo.com. And then my website is still up, www.ninastarsong.com. Because at this point, I have been kicked off of Facebook, Instagram, Messenger. Just, I'm prepared for it to possibly trickle over to YouTube and things of this nature, just in case. But so far, so good. And it's quite amazing to me, since I am a truther, but I was sharing way less truther information than a lot of people, but I was sharing a lot more information. And that seems to be why I got targeted. Is something that they do not want us to know about the ascension and the galactic intel coming in. Yes, so I just wanted to speak quickly to what Daniel said about the dream. For about 2 years ago, when I had a very strong prophetic download in Paris, I was haunted for 2 years with visions like what he's sharing. And what I did not realize, and I realize now, is I was reading and seeing their attempted 3D, 4D timeline. That was their desire. But I will say that since understanding now the awakening of Christ consciousness in the 5D timeline and where we currently are headed, and what is the prime creator's timeline, which is the chosen timeline, I'm very clear at this moment that those things we did not need to go through. And yes, could it change? Yes, because at this point, all I can tell you is what I've been told up until now. And it's very hard right now to predict the future, other than the fact that God wins, but we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. So if I start getting messages, Nina, prepared, or this is going to happen, absolutely. And Magenta, the same with you. But I, at this point, have seen that that was their desire, and that is not going to play out. It's not what we're going to go through. So that's not what I see happening.
Thank you, Nina. And I feel the same way. I mean, the minute I get any message like that, I'd be bringing it out straight away. And I think, we're seeing these potentials. When the potential for that agenda is high enough to manifest, then those who are in receptivity to higher signals, the memory system within, then we pick these things up. But some of this has occurred that was in Daniel's dream. Some of this has occurred already, so I take note of it. It hasn't necessarily come through me in that sort of disaster kind of structure. But what I'm seeing really is the agenda. They tried and are still trying to implement the agenda, and it's been blocked at every turn. It has flipped into the positive, and it has backfired at every turn. And what I'm seeing is the very thing that they are trying to prevent, which is their own exposure and downfall, is what they are creating. That is what I see, and that is so in alignment with the energies of this reality right now. The very thing that they are attempting desperately to prevent, their own downfall, they are actually creating it. And so I'm feeling very positive. I know that there are people that are going to go through this dark night of the soul and suffering in areas, but what I'm positive about is the exposure of something so dark that's been going on for so long. And finally, once all this is exposed and that structure is brought down and collapses, finally we can rebuild a free world that gives us trust. Like you were saying, Daniel, about the circus presenters. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could have the trust there? And that trust is being eroded. We don't have that trust now. The aware ones don't have that trust now, but slowly that trust is being eroded within the rest of the population, which is what we were saying about the third wave of awakening, the third time we go to the houses. That will erode the trust of yet more individuals. So I see a collapse of the structure. I've seen a collapse of the structure for so long, didn't know how it would happen, and now we are slap bang in the middle of it. And I'm feeling, there's a lot going on from now till the end of the year. I'm feeling, what's happening in December is huge. And then as we go into next year, it seems to me that there's still an attempt to get that negative timeline back, but we're so far removed from it come January, February and March into spring, and around the time of the March equinox, that seems to be when we are really rebuilding our reality, our structure, our social systems, and that's when I see New Earth flourishing. But it's all starting now. So that what I'm seeing is positive, because the dark structure is coming down, basically.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah, please do.
Well, it really aligns, because right now when I'm doing readings for clients, it's very interesting when they start asking future questions, because we're changing so quickly right now. But one client was asking when he would be able to be reunited with his wife in Paris. And immediately I said, well, I will ask, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to see that right now. And what I was shown was springtime and blooming flowers. And it became very clear that springtime is going to be this very joyful, love-filled, like reunioning new earth type of energy. So that completely aligns. And also the same magenta. Up until now, I was not able to see after the new year. So going into the new year, I wasn't really able to see, but recently I have been seeing that there will continue to be attempts that will not be allowed to happen, but the attempts will be made. But at this point, it's like it's like you have a whole lot of warriors that have awoken, and people are kind of at this point going, yeah, we got your number. And a lot of the people that maybe were very angry at Mr. T are suddenly with Mr. T, and they've now turned on the Mr. B side, and their alliance has shifted because they can see what's been really going on. And the fact that they were lied to for so long, and that anger gets redirected. So that's also what I've been seeing.
Well,
righteous anger, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I too couldn't see past the end of this year, and now I'm starting to see this sort of springtime energy and this celebratory new earth energy. But to quote the magic letter, it's going to be biblical.
Yes.
That hasn't come from the 9 in those words, but it fits the energy. And this is another reason, going back to what Daniel was saying about the magic letter. I don't necessarily follow the magic letter or even teach the magic letter's teachings, but the 9 have said such similar things.
Yeah.
And I have people close to me who are family members who do follow the magic letter. So they tell me what the magic letter has said, and I will say, well, that's interesting because the 9 said blah, blah, blah. Or it'll be the other way around. I'll say to my family member, the 9 said blah, blah, blah to me the other day, and they will say, oh, that's what the magic letter said as well. So I know that there is a parallel, but people get confused and think I'm getting my information from the magic letter. I absolutely do not. Everything comes from the magic number, the 9. Yeah. Any more comments, Daniel, before we wrap up and say goodbye? Because I think we've been chit-chatting for 2 hours now.
I just wanted to put an idea out there. if there's some generous person or people out there who've got an enormous piece of land, that when all of this is over,
You're
well,
going to go and live there.
no, I mean, we need to organize.
He's leaving me.
No, you can come too. We need to organize. I don't know how this is going to be arranged, but we need to.
A party.
Oh no, Nina! I wanted Nina to hear this.
Wait for Nina to come back then.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, we've got a little. What? She wanted to come along the whole thing, but she's been very patient. No, you can't have ice cream. You had ice cream yesterday.
Let her say hello, because that's actually from Joe. That's from Joe.
Captain Marvel.
My friend who lives in New Mexico sends me prezzies, and my friend Joe from New Mexico sent me this, sent us Captain
He's a
Marvel,
big comic book
Captain
enthusiast.
Marvel. And she did have a cat in the back of her.
She has
backpack.
the cat. It goes in the
There's
backpack.
a little cat. Yeah, thank you, Joe. We do love her. She actually sits in our living room.
My goodness.
We do talk about her. Yeah, Nina, are you there?
I am. Yeah, I got kicked off again, but I'm back.
I know. So Daniel wants to carry on with what he was saying.
Oh, I was saying, if there's somebody out there who has a massive piece of land, I'm just putting this out there in its genesis, in its seed form. We need to organize like a party to end all parties. We're talking thousands of people, and it's going to be just like so incredible and celebratory and ceremonial in the joy it will produce, that it will send shockwaves into the future and into the past. And in fact, if I've already said it now, it's already happened, and we can get caught up in that euphoria right now. I don't know where it's going to be. It's going to have to be somewhere where it's mutually convenient. There is such a place, so people can come from all corners of the earth, and it will be ultimate. So we need some kind of event planner on board here, I think.
Totally. And we can do a Mr. T dance where we all do. That's how he dances, isn't it? A Mr. T dance.
Sure. He's got some moves, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see it.
Well, anything else you want to say, Nina, before we say goodbye?
I just want to say I'm so glad we got to do this, and I feel like it's funny that I'm getting all this interference over here. It's definitely been happening a lot, it seems, with me and technology, but you know, we're so beyond even needing technology to connect with each other, and the Starseeds are so united. It's been amazing. Thank you to everybody that has found me, because you all felt my SOS through the hearts. I was just sending it out into the multiverse, and so many people found me. And of course, Magenta, thank you for telling people where to find me. Yes, so we're just—
Put your camera on, Nina. Put your camera on so you can say goodbye.
I would love to.
Internet goes again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love you all.
Love you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us today. We hope that our conversation has conjured up some food for thought, or has assisted with your own wonderings and insight. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Joe, for sending us Captain America. Is it Captain America?
She's misbehaving. She wants some ice cream. I already gave her some ice cream yesterday, and she wants more, and she'll be sick.
There's some organic dairy-free ice cream in the fridge.
Bedtime for you, misbehaving.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to us, and we'll be back again. Love you all. Bye.